Okay, hello. This is the second time trying to record this because I did not like the last one. So, this is my editing tutorial for in-game screenshots, not edits. Like, this is for my story, Misfits, which you can read on my Tumblr, which will be in the link in the description. So what we're doing right now is we're going to my Sims 4 screenshots folder and just, like, I take my photos in-game with tab and pressing C like every other person. Less if you're special and you use fraps. Sorry, I'm still a little bit sick. Okay, so sorry about that. So this is the screenshot we are going to be editing. In this shot, Mo has just basically come to consciousness from being robbed, and so she's supposed to be like hyperventilating and stuff. So yeah. So what we're gonna do first is duplicate the layer. This is just so that we can have a background layer that has like the raw photo that is untouched throughout the whole process. You know, in case we just want to go back and check and just admire our process or progress. So what I do first is the crop tool thing, and I keep it at 16:9 ratio, which you can just select here, because that's the original ratio of the picture. Sometimes I'll do it like thinner, if that makes sense. Like sometimes I'll crop with this, and I'll do this, and just go crop. But I'm not going to do that. Lately I've been liking to keep it the same ratio, so 16:9. And I just go ahead and crop it, and just make sure she's in the rule of thirds. If you don't know what that is, Google it. I am sure there's lots of links created by passionate photographers that will gladly explain to you what the rule of thirds is. All I have to say about it now is this exists for a reason, these lines, and if you are going to be taking a picture, try to keep the subject at one of the intersections. Okay, so after you crop, I go into camera raw filter. I'm not sure if you have to download it from Adobe or not, but yeah, I don't know. I did, but I don't know if that was totally unnecessary or not. So what I do in camera raw filter is I turn up the yellow temperature and the pink, dude, I don't know, and I turn up the exposure. This all just depends on the shot. Sometimes I have to turn up the exposure a lot, sometimes I have to turn it down, sometimes I just leave it, but for now I'm going to turn it up to here. And then I turn up the contrast and the clarity a bit. Yeah, and then I navigate over to the details tab, and I just sharpen it to about here, and that looks really crazy. But if you go to noise reduction and you hit luminance and just hit it to about the same spot, then it kind of fixes it and makes everything smooth, and I really like that. Okay, so there's our little before and after. This is why I keep layer zero completely untouched. So then I go to blur gallery, iris blur. You know, you could do a field blur with a layer mask. I'll get into layer masks later in the video, I believe. But for now, I just do iris blur. That's what I usually do because I'm lazy. Yeah, this is like the lazy girl's way of blurring. So you do that, kind of adjust it around your sim, and then turn down the blur a bit. I mean, this is kind of just a preference thing. I prefer it to keep it from 5 to 10 pixels blurred. I don't even know how that makes sense. And then you can adjust these settings if you want those little bokeh sparkly things. I don't know how to pronounce that. So hit OK. It's blurred. If you want it to be blurred more, just go in with the blur tool and just kind of blur it more. So there's that. So next what we're going to do is liquefy. I always forget to do this, so yeah, don't forget, like me. So what we're going to do is basically just smooth out all the jagged edges and fix the expression a little bit. A lot of people don't actually know that you can do that with the liquefy tool, is use it to like adjust their facial expressions. So she looks pretty distraught in this picture. She's supposed to look even more distraught. So we're gonna just do that. Whoa, what did I just do? Yeah, I just pressed Control Z or Command Z if you're on a Mac to undo that, because whoa, that was not supposed to happen. So yeah, just fix her expression a bit. This again depends on the picture. Maybe the expression is totally perfect and is exactly what you're going for in the picture. In my case, it pretty much is. Yeah, so that's that. Okay, so from here on out, pretty much these steps are very picture specific, and sometimes I don't even do them for some pictures. So this part I use my tablet, my drawing tablet. I got this for like $90 at Best Buy. Wacom Intuos, I don't even know the specifics, but it was cheap. You don't need something expensive if you're just using it for sim edits. If you're using it for digital art, I use this for digital art too, but maybe you want something a bit more fancy. This works fine for me. Again, I don't have a job, I don't make my own money, so I can't really afford something that's really expensive. Okay, so yeah. What we're going to do now is create a new layer, so not duplicate it, but in like a new layer, and then go to a part of the sim that is like a shadow. I wouldn't go to the area with the blush, I'd just go to like a shadow and go with the eyedropper tool and click it. And sometimes I'll make it a bit darker, a bit more saturated, less saturated, just depending on where I eyedropped, and then turn that to the layer mode to multiply. And basically what this does is like overlays it on the skin but makes it darker. And then go in with your drawing tablet or mouse. I would recommend a drawing tablet, but it's not the end of the world if you don't have one, and just start to kind of draw. I don't fill in entirely where I want the shadows because I do use the smudge tool to kind of make it transition nicely. Keep in mind where your light source is. You can still add shadows where the light source is, but I would just keep them less heavy, I guess. And just kind of start to draw in. So the places I shadow are around the nose. So just basically doing the contour of the nose. Up in the eyes, the little groove on the lip. I don't know what it's called. I used to know. Don't know anymore. And under the chin. Sometimes I'll do the collarbone depending on what is in the shot. I'm doing this the wrong. So the light in this case, let me just do a little, is coming from the window, but it's kind of coming from behind her, so it would hit here. So I'm not doing too much contour under the cheek or anything, because that wouldn't really fit where our light source is coming from. However, I'm going to do contour on this side, a little bit here, and we're all going to blur this and adjust the opacity later. So yeah, and then I just do it under her choker and under her neck. And so her collarbone isn't in the shot, so I don't need to worry too much about like shading on the body. And then what I do is go in with the smudge tool and just smudge. And this I'm doing with my mouse, for anyone curious. And just kind of swirl it, push it, pull it until it looks good to you. I usually just go back and forth with the smudge tool. So this is going to be an awkward talk because sometimes smudging takes quite some time. So if you find anywhere that you need to go back and add shadows, like in this case under her bangs, just go ahead and do that. Never too late to smudge, you know what I'm saying? And yeah, just go ahead and smudge everything out. So just do that. I just will go to like the very edges to pull it. I'm not making any sense right now. Yeah, okay. Just smudge, you know what I'm saying? What should I talk about while I am smudging? Pets. Pets might come out. I'm dying for pets to come out, okay? It needs to come out, and it needs to come out now. The Sims is like really taking too long with their expansion packs, and I'm not even someone who likes to bash every single thing that EA puts out. Like, no, I'm not. EA bashers aren't my jam, but you know they do. Everyone has their complaints, so especially when it's like a huge corporation like EA that can take a constructive criticism or two. So just gonna smudge, and it looks a little bit, you know, wishy-washy. I don't know how to say it. So just go to blur and just blur it a bit. That kind of gets rid of some of the general ugliness. And then go to the opacity tab on the layer and adjust it. I'm gonna do to about 40. And I'd say that looks pretty good. So now what we're going to do is do the heavier shadows. So I like to do this around the nose and stuff. So what you do is go up to your colors and just make it darker. And then adjust that to multiply the new layer. And go ahead and start drawing in. This part I definitely would use the drawing tablet for, because it's like they're more precise lines. But again, if you're good with a mouse, go ahead and feel free to do it with a mouse. So I just do it kind of really contouring the nose, the eyelids, the groove of the lips. So basically the same places, but just a little bit less. It just makes it look a bit I don't know how to say it, but cleaner, I guess. Not even just more defined. And so I just go ahead and sort of drag everything out. I forgot to add some there. It's really ugly right now, but I will fix that with the smudge tool. I just did that with my mouse, so yikes. See, I can't. Once you get a drawing tablet and you get used to your drawing tablet, you can't really do without it. Yeah. So, yeah, I'm just going ahead but not smudging it quite as much as we did with the other shadows, because we're going to be turning the opacity for this down quite a bit. So I turned it down to about 23%. Some people are not a fan of these harsh shadows. Like, I don't really love the shadows around her nose, so I'm going to turn it up a bit, and then the opacity on my, turn down the opacity on my eraser, and just sort of erase the shadows a bit on her nose, and see, that's a bit better. Alright, so that's good for the shadows. So I'm going to create a new group layer and call it shadows. You don't need to do this at all. This is just because I hate it when my layers tab gets all cluttered with a bazillion layers. Next thing we're going to do is the highlights. So, and sorry if this like takes a while, because my editing takes a while, but not as long as some people's editing. I don't know. And go in with my brush again, and these are like you know how we had harsh shadows? These are like the harsh highlights, I guess. It doesn't actually matter which one you do first, hence why I'm doing the highlights first. And I do the inner corner of the eyes, the brows. I'm going to turn down my thingy, the waterline. The edge of the nose, kind of up. Whoa, that did not turn out very well. I'm going to do that. The lip groove thing. The lips themselves. Okay, I don't like how it's doing that. See, I just also good tip for anyone who has Photoshop. So Control Z is undo, but you can only undo a certain amount of times. If you do Control Alt Z, it's step backward, and you can do that as many times as you want. So that is super helpful. At least it was to me when I learned that. Oh my god, it saved my life. So now we're just gonna go ahead and just blur a little bit. I keep it on normal, like the layer mode on normal when I do this. Don't ask me why. I don't know why. Just kind of refine everything. Mechatol Nas. So just gonna blur it all out. Okay, and then hit overlay on your layer mode. So you might be like, oh my god, what the hell? So just kind of reduce the opacity, however the hell you want to pronounce it. Like that for me is good. Good enough for me anyways. Now we're gonna do the kind of general highlights. I go pretty easy on the highlights because then I do lighting effects. But however, if you have an older graphics card, and I would just open a test picture and see if you can run lighting effects first to see if your graphics card works. So yeah, if you can't do lighting effects, there's a spider on the wall right now and I'm like slowly dying. If you can't do lighting effects, I would kind of play around more with your highlights. In this case, I am just mostly highlighting the side where the light is, a little bit where the light isn't. Does that even make sense? And just, again, going ahead with the blur, or smudge tool, and smudging it all. And just blur, Gaussian blur. And then if you need to, you can kind of smudge away any unwanted shine. And then go to overlay, and totally, like, I just reduce the opacity to like 20%. Like that even is a lot, so like, yeah, sure, whatever. That's good enough. So now I'm done with that, and I'm pretty confident I'm done with that. What I do is hide the background layer, and then go to layer, merge visible, and that just merges all the layers that don't like have this eye thing. So as you can see here, this is the Mo, looking like a Mo. Her face is like just nicerly. Some people find this is like too much contour, like especially when you compare it to this. But when you look at it by itself, I think it's fine. Okay, so next thing I do is lighting. So this is like the best part in my opinion. So what I go is to filter, render, lighting effects. And this is honestly like 90% of my editing. And so originally, like the default settings will be on Spotlight. You're going to want to go here and change it to point. This is again entirely out of like preference. I prefer it like this because it kind of evenly lights things, I guess. So basically, I'll kind of show you around the menu a bit because this took me a bit to figure out. AKA, I just messed around with it until I liked it. So what you want to do is like make sure your mouse is on this teeny little line, and then you can make it smaller or bigger, which basically sets the range of the light. You can adjust the color. There's two kind of colors you can adjust. One's for like the innermost lighting and one's for the outermost lighting. I believe. I usually keep it to like a golden light, but it depends on the time of day. Like if you're doing evening or morning, I'll set it to more saturated golden light. In this case, we're thinking morning, afternoon, like not enough to just make it super saturated. So there's kind of the coloring, and I said it too. You can make it less intense or more intense. That's awful looking. I usually keep it around here. So I just really want to put emphasis on like where the light's coming from. So I'm gonna kind of put it down here. Ambience basically is like how much the space around the ring is lighted. I'm sorry, I'm awful at explaining things. So here we go. So as you can see, it looks a lot better with the lighting effects, at least in my opinion. So you could finish it off here. There are some finishing touches that I do like to put on. One of those is kind of extra lighting. This is only if there's a window I do this. Is I'll go in with a soft white brush and just fill it in and then set it to overlay. And as you can see, it looks like there is light coming in from the windows, and it's just a nice kind of effect to have. So I just sort of mess around with that, and so I think it just looks a lot nicer like that. So that's that. Next thing I will do is I will duplicate my layer and go to Filter, Blur, Gaussian Blur. Usually to about 3 to 5 pixels, and then reduce the opacity. This is where I'm going to get into layer masks. So you're going to go down here to this little half-tone circle and go to gradient map. I downloaded some from DeviantArt. I don't even know the link, I'm sorry. And find one that you like and set it to soft light, and then screw around with the opacity. So there's that. And basically, see this thing here. If you take a black brush and draw on your image, it will hide the effect. So essentially, anything in white will show the effect that you're applying. Anything in black will hide it. You can actually add this to any image layer just by hitting this, like selecting the layer and hitting that. In this case, we don't really need to use a mask for a gradient map because I do want it applied to the whole image. But for the Gaussian blur layer, I don't want her eyes to be blurred. So I'm going to take a black brush, set the color to black, create a layer mask, and make sure the layer mask is selected, and just draw on her eyes with black. To see what you have drawn better, press Alt, the Alt key, and click your layer mask, and then it'll show you kind of more clear. So now what I do is I can hide the background layer and then merge it all. So as you can see, we have come a long way from where we started. Yeah, wow. So, you know, this is where I would draw in hair strands or other things. One last thing I'm going to do is add a light leak. You can download these from just Google Images or find them like freebies on websites. I have a folder in my photos called Resources, and it basically has a bunch of overlays like bokeh and actions and rain and snow and overlays and stuff. And then I have a folder full of light leaks that I downloaded from this pack. So I, you know, sometimes I use them, sometimes I don't. I know, and thank you to FemSim, for this, a lot of people use them for flashbacks. I am sort of wishy-washy with how I do my flashbacks. I haven't really decided if that's the way I'm going to do it. But all I know is that a lot of people use them for like flashbacks, so they'll put it, and yeah. So what you do with a light leak is drag it onto your picture and set the blending mode to screen, and then just mess around with the opacity. So I don't know, I like how it looks here. And then layer merge visible, and the second last thing we're going to do is add noise, because I'm going to show you how I size it, because is smartly, and add noise. So I add about that much. I don't know, I just like how it looks, and I think it kind of hides any pixelation. Alright, so sizing. Everyone struggles with sizing. So I'm going to add subtitles to this image, which you will watch me do. Sizing is very difficult, and it took me forever to get it right. So before I add my subtitles, what I do is go to Edit, Preferences, Export, and turn the quick export format to JPEG. Anyone who is kind of familiar with photo stuff is going to be like, why the hell are you switching it to JPEG? Anyone who's very familiar with photo stuff might understand why when I resize it. So let me explain this a little bit. So here's your resolution. There is a myth that you cannot go higher than this if you're going to save it for web. So for the internet, which would be Tumblr, which is where I'm posting my pictures, that's a myth. So what I do is I turn it up to 400. And then resize it to 540 width. And 540 is the width of Tumblr dashboard images, which is where I'm going to be posting my story, so I want to optimize it for that. No, that's 4,000. 400. There we go. And set the resolution before you set the dimensions, because otherwise it'll just get weird. So when you do that, turn it to bicubic sharper when you resample it. It's just optimizing for smaller pictures. And what was I saying? So the reason why we did JPEG is that if you save it as a PNG, your resolution will basically just be thrown out the window. Like, it will just completely disregard that information. Because obviously when you save a picture, it saves all the information, like the dimensions and the color mode and stuff. So it will throw away this information. It will not go higher than 72. If you save it as a JPEG, it will be the same resolution as you set it at. So we're going to do that. Resize it and then zoom in. And it looks kind of bad zoomed in, but it looks great on Tumblr Dash. Okay, so now we're going to add subtitles. So let me just pause the video because I don't want to spoil the story, but I am going to get the subtitles for this picture. Okay, so what I did was I went into my Google document where I have all the dialogue written out, and I copy-pasted her dialogue. And so what we're going to do now is go with the text tool and just do that. I don't know, I'm not fancy with it. And I'm not super, what's the word? Cohesive. Not congruent. That's for math. Oh God, what's the word? I don't know. Whatever. I don't keep the same color, because the way I do it is that the first person who talks in the scenes, their text color is white. The second person is yellow. But I don't have a specific color yellow. I just go for whatever yellow works for me. Anyway. So, it will default to Myriad Pro sometimes. I don't know. Just change it. I go to Helvetica Normal, and I downloaded this font. I didn't have it, and it will set the default to 2.16 points. The higher the resolution on your picture, the smaller the font's going to be. Just going to lay that out there right now. And so I set it to white, paste the dialogue, She had just woken up from being robbed at gunpoint, so hence the crazy text. So if there's an action, I surround it in parentheses, or brackets, like square brackets, and turn it gray just to differentiate the actions from the text. So yeah. And as you can see, you can't even read this part. So what I do to fix that is go to, I double click on the little bracket on the text layer, and it'll open up layer style, and just hit outer glow. I have my settings already set. If you want to take a minute and like screenshot these or look at these, here you go. And there we go, we can read it. So last thing I do is I export it as a JPEG to a folder. So I have all my story folders here. Here's Misfits, and I just save it like that. Alright, so I hope you enjoyed this tutorial. If you didn't, then you suck. If you did, then you're great. Yeah. See y'all later.